is a pleasure to be here. You know, at my company, we are on a mission to get Americans moving again. And we call it the magic pill. But really, leading a lifestyle of prevention is neither magic, nor is it really a pill. And the truth of the matter is, your personal health has become a lot more than just personal. It's become a political issue, even an economic issue. And so the average American now spends about 20% of their take-home pay toward the cost of health care. And during our, the truth of the matter is prescribing the magic pill is the most affordable way to solve our nation's healthcare crisis. So during our brief time together, I'm going to paint a spotlight here on a very big problem in our country. And I'm going to talk about my journey as both a patient and an athlete. I think over the next decade, we're going to have to make a decision whether we become a nation of patients or athletes. And I'm going to, as we close, ask you to prescribe the magic pill for yourself. And you'll see that this pill has been a recurring theme through my life as well. Now, the theme for our session this year is transform mind, body, and spirit. I'll talk mostly about body, but I had a curiosity about whether or not a change in one area, a change in the body, could actually provoke a change in the other two, in our mind and our spirit. And I found the answer. I found the answer in the Journal of Neuroscience. They did a great study with 4 different groups of mice. All right, the first group of mice, they gave them a running wheel and some little mice shoes to just run as fast as they could. The second group wasn't so lucky. They just got an empty cage. The third group got a set of toys. And the last group got a running wheel and toys. What was interesting about this study was that after just 4 weeks, after a month into it, they started noticing the running-only group was crushing the other 3 groups when it came to cognitive tests. The other interesting finding was that they found the little mice brains were actually growing in group 1. It was an area of the brain called the hippocampus. Normally it shrinks over time, but it grew in this study, and it has to do with memory and the learning function. So that's what happens to mice in a controlled environment, but what happens to us humans in an uncontrolled environment? Well, I brought along some pictures to show you. Pictures to show you. Here's one. Why walk the dog when you can simply drive the dog around the block? Right? What is this person thinking? Or, I think they're going to have trouble getting the beverage cart down the row. Here's one of my favorites. The double down sandwich. Folks, I'll eat just about anything. When I get grossed out over a sandwich, okay, I know the fast food industry has gone too far. Look at that thing. What were they thinking? Don't raise your hand if you've had one of these. Why walk up 15 steps when you can simply take the escalator to the health club, right? And so all of these things really paint a picture of where we are in society, where we learn that for the first time ever, a generation of children will not lead as long a life as our parents. Former Surgeon General Dr. Richard Carmona calls the obesity epidemic the silent killer, and many think this statistic is even low. It comes from United Healthcare. Over half of the country expected to be diabetic or pre-diabetic by 2020. The disease alone to account for about 7% of our nation's health spend. Now, I think I'm so passionate about this topic because I grew up in a really interesting household. It was the late 60s and we were living in Ohio. And my dad was really sparking a movement of his own in the health and fitness industry. He was running a number of YMCA programs, fitness and health programs. And guys like my dad out on the fringe doing these creative things in the late 60s, they tend to get the attraction of other kind of wackos. And so there was a physician in Dallas who called up my dad in 1970 and said, I'm going to start a center for aerobic activity. And so I was glad my dad accepted Dr. Kenneth Cooper's offer and became the first employee. He's the one with the beautiful horn-rimmed glasses there on the right-hand side. And you have to remember, these guys at this time were doing really some cutting-edge science that we still use today. They didn't even let women into the Boston Marathon until 1972, and it wasn't because they were discriminating. They actually felt their hearts couldn't take it. So the ladies have since shown them. Oh, I threw this in for fun. So this is my dad running at the aerobic center, and I have to tell you, it was a lot of fun as a kid running around this center. I got to meet a lot of his friends, and so this fella here in the Adidas shirt, he actually turned out, he was a Navy grad at the time, Heisman Trophy winner, turned out to be a pretty good quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. For the millennials in the room, this predates Romo. This is a guy named Roger Staubach. So Dad and Dr. Cooper wanted me to go into the preventive medicine industry. I went into the health insurance industry. And really for the last 20 years, I've been working with a lot of systems and larger employers that take on health risks. And all of the work that we've done with our actuaries and medical directors really boils down to these four things. Unhealthy behaviors lead to health risks, lead to chronic disease, and healthcare costs and lost productivity. So every year, me and my colleagues would get together and we'd look at the ICD-9 code claim groupings of all of our clients, and the same conditions were always at the top. I mean, it's musculoskeletal, diabetes, cardiac, hypertension, sleep apnea, all these things that relate back to preventable conditions. So the more you take on risk, the more we have to have a discussion about getting to the root cause. And the irony of my talk today is really, I believe my own obesity contributed to a situation where I became a patient in 2006 and 2007. And I look back on it, it was a really tough time in my life. And I wasn't just any patient, I was your patient, THR. I think I visited just about everybody in here in your different departments. I was at the MRI, it was L4, L5. And the reason I bring this up is because I know what it feels like to deal with chronic pain. It's a tough, tough thing. And it was a real hard time in my life. I look back, I was depressed, and I got through it. And I got through it with your help, and also, and if he's here, I'm going to give him a big man hug at the end of the meeting because I found Dr. Michael Desselums, one of your neurosurgeons who helped me through it. And boy, when I got through with my surgery, it was just a hallelujah moment for me. And so I made what I called a marathon recovery. I haven't done 100 triathlons like that, but for me, I got to check the box on a goal of mine that I've always wanted to do. And so I know that I don't have a runner's body, but I have a runner's heart, and I used every bit of it in 2009 to cross the finish line in the Dallas White Rock Marathon in 4 hours and 50 minutes. Thank you. And if you've never done that before, tried to accomplish a health goal in a time race where people are clapping for you, it is the most amazing thing that you could ever do. And so when I crossed the finish line, boy, I knew I was forever changed. And I went home and I pulled out, my old man ran the Boston Marathon a number of times, and I pulled out a lot of pictures from the aerobic center, and then it hit me. And I began to weep. And the reason I did was because I realized I had spent my entire career paying for the cost of disease and the burden of illness, while my dad and Dr. Cooper spent their life preventing it. I mean, to me, it was analogous of turning off the faucet versus mopping up the floor. I mean, I wanted to be on the side of prevention. And so I knew what I had to do. I launched my own company last year, and it's called Health Wagers. We're building a platform to incent healthy living. And I don't really consider us to be as much in the health and the wellness industry as much as I think we're in the entertainment industry. We're trying to make sweating a lot more fun. And we're using the latest social, behavioral, economic, and gamification techniques to get the job done. Now, there's one condition to be, the individuals who join our community, we call them athletes. And there's one criteria before you become a member of our community, and that is you have to have a body, okay? And so if there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's simply that to be an athlete, it is a state of mind. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other and go for it. I mean, the key is about fitness. It's not so much about being better than someone else. It's about being better than you used to be. So when we look at the characteristics of the athletes in our community, there are 4 success factors. And I believe as THR will inevitably take on more risk through accountable care models and others, these characteristics become relevant to you as you deploy population health initiatives. The first is community. Athletes are all part of a community. Whether you do yoga or Zumba or cycling or triathlons or running, it doesn't matter. Or Weight Watchers, those who are part of a community seeking a similar goal do have greater success. The second is challenge. Athletes are not afraid to challenge themselves. In a clinical setting, we're taught to alleviate pain. But athletes actually accept it. We not only accept it, we look for it and we learn to live with it because that's how you build your muscle. Third is measure. You'll always see, Drucker said, we cannot manage what we cannot measure. So we are the ones wearing the heart rate monitors, the GPS, the Fitbits, the Bits, all the different things, the Wi-Fi scales. We are leading the quantified self movement, and in 2017, a third of Americans are predicted to have an always-on health device on their person. It's an exciting time with some of the robust apps. I believe mobile is going to transform, as it already is, preventive in traditional medical care delivery. Finally, reward is so important that you simply take steps along the way to reward yourself, whether it's monetary rewards like we do at Health Wagers or putting a medal around your neck. That's so important. So finally, the magic pill is exercise. It is simple. It's free. There are no side effects. If you prescribe it, you'll cut heart disease rates in half, lower the risk of diabetes by 58%, reduce anxiety and depression by 40%, and cut into the rates of obesity. Yet, when you ask Americans, if it's ever asked in a clinical setting, only a third of providers ever even bring it up. Not so at one of the largest nonprofit institutions in the country, at Kaiser Permanente. 9 million Southern Californians get asked about it every time they visit the doctor. And here's how it works. The nurse or medical assistant simply says, last week, how many days did you exercise and for how many minutes? And they put that total up on the top of the chart along with all the other vital signs. And Kaiser simply asks that the doctor, when they come in, has a discussion about it. Hey, we noticed you have elevated blood pressure. We really need to get you moving 30 minutes or more today. Could you do that? Folks, it's different if it comes from you. I don't care what you do at THR. It's different than if it comes from my mom or a friend. And so, in closing, I would just simply ask that you would leave here and keep an athlete state of mind, that you'd prescribe for yourself and others this magic pill. Have a conversation about it. Consider it to be a vital sign, because it is, and write a prescription for it. And if you do, you will help transform the North Texas community into a community of athletes. Thank you guys for your time.